Welcome to the QB Chronicles, an SMU Football Podcast with Garrett, Gilbert, and Kyle Padron. Join former SMU quarterbacks Garrett and Kyle as they break down each week's game, offering insights from their own experiences on the field. In addition to game analysis, we'll also bring you special episodes featuring interviews with past and present SMU players, sharing their stories and perspectives. Whether you're a diehard Mustang fan or just love football, this podcast is your go-to source for all things SMU football. Pony up!
Welcome back to the QB Chronicles. I'm Kyle Padron, joined by five-star media personality, Garrett Gilbert.
We're clearly running out of information to share about me.
What's up, there's a plethora of information.
There is a plethora. We're running out of interesting things about me.
No, I just did not do enough homework this evening. I'm solo parenting of sorts, so didn't have time to do my due diligence. And
Understood.
Yesterday, our live show, that spectacular. It was a 5-star performance by you. You were a 5-star. I was a 2-star. Together, we're slightly above average, 3.5 stars.
Do you think that? Well, I like that math. Do you think that on our little intro video, do you think there are any passes being thrown to the same receiver? I have one or two on there that are to Darius Johnson, then I have one or two that are to Jeremy Johnson. And I'm curious if any of those specific throws by you were to Darius or JJ or Toke.
I will have to go back and watch. My assumption would be that Darius was a focal point in our offense and probably be on the other end of those passes, at least one.
Yeah. Worth looking into.
And we need to have DJ on. That guy was so freaking good.
He was supremely talented.
Yeah. Shout out, DJ. Miss you, man. But hey, great show yesterday. A great game yesterday. Ponies are 10-1. Big victory out in Charlottesville, Virginia. Got to 10-1 on the year, 7-0 in the ACC. Clinch a berth to the ACC Championship, up to number 9 in the AP and coaches polls.
Mm-hmm.
Ponies are living right.
Yeah. That was fun. First of all, thanks to everyone for coming over under yesterday. Thanks to Mitch in 1911 for setting that up. And as we said yesterday, numerous times on 3 and Billy Embody for all their support. So I had fun yesterday. And again, thanks to everyone for coming out and watching and or listening online. Fun game yesterday. Excited to dive into it. Pretty much dominant from beginning to end. I think we had 434 yards. I don't know that it felt like that at times. Our defense was so dominant yesterday that it didn't really matter. We could have won that game, obviously, with, the first touchdown. Then I think that last touchdown was we fumbled the ball late and kind of gave Virginia some points. But it was fun to watch such a dominant defensive performance.
Yeah, defense played lights out. I was going to get to that later on in the show, but since we're talking about them already, 9 sacks is the stat that stood out to me. Harrison Hunt had 2, Isaiah Smith had 2, several other guys got involved, but 9 sacks total, set the record for the year. I think the previous benchmark was 7 sacks in a game, got to 9 this week.
9's a good number.
Just his task all day long was very challenged by our defensive front and what we were able to do defensively. Their offense, I think both running backs were dinged up a little bit throughout the game, but, contained the running game, which was their big, task. Really not great offensively for Virginia in the passing game. So had to step up.
65 rushing yards, by the way.
Yeah. And, I thought the defense played just tough football, physical, fast, and dominant performance on the defensive side of the ball, which allowed our offense to play relatively stress-free. Got off to a somewhat of a fast start, not as fast as we have seen in recent weeks, but scored on the second possession. We're held out in the first possession, but still put some points up in the first half. Didn't quite meet our score predictions. We didn't be over. For those that are fact checking us. I think
that's okay though. We got pretty close. I think, we took the foot off the gas is what happened. And we got close to what you and I both thought SMU would get to. We just didn't allow any points. And so I'm kind of okay. I'm okay with that. Obviously we all are, it's like the defense overperformed or, shone brighter than we kind of thought going into it. So very, very exciting performance. Certainly some stuff to improve upon. But we go win another road game while losing the turnover battle. Though I think a couple of those fourth down stops ought to be counted as turnovers. Obviously they are turnover on downs, but a couple of those fourth down stops that we had were quote unquote turnovers to sort of even that number out.
Takeaways are, to phrase it differently, but still, defense played lights out all day long and just lacked the takeaways that we've, become accustomed to seeing throughout the year, but still just a fantastic defensive performance all day long, full 60 minutes. And even the play that they scored on, got pressure. Calandria just made a hell of a play, escaping the pocket, and then kind of
very Kevin Jennings-esque on that play. I thought.
Channeled his inner KJ there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Malachi Fields made a great catch in the back of the end zone. That was their only points on the game yesterday. So great defensive performance, and offensively, can't speak highly enough about Kevin. His performance, 25 of 33. Missed a couple easy ones, but he had 320 yards. Total passing, 2 touchdowns, had 1 interception, which, that's a tough interception to throw. Made the right read, just a hell of a play by the defensive player there. He was really
that was a fantastic play by the safety.
Yeah, stuck his hands up and came down with it. Just a great play. So those are certainly Kevin can learn from it of sorts, but he did everything right in that play. I thought he threw a good ball. It's just defensive guy made a hell of a play. So
yeah, got to tip your hat to him.
Yeah, and really the play that the draw that Kevin scored on, I love seeing. He's an undersized guy. He's not you and I are 6'3", 6'4", bigger bodies that we can used to be able to run into people.
No doubt.
He his shoulder down, got in the end zone, and just a good tough run to get his rushing touchdown on the day as well. So 3 total touchdowns for Kevin, and another just super efficient day up in Virginia, and it's becoming a routine for Kevin to play these efficient games, playing within the system. I thought he played a great game all around.
Yeah. Quick little side note before we get back to you. This kind of jogged my brain here. You said doing things that we used to be able to do. I would just like to say that, speaking of doing things that I used to be able to do, I tried to go play basketball today, and it's been 6 hours and I'm already sore. I'm going to be sore till Wednesday. To make matters worse, we went to a Christmas tree lighting at our church tonight, and somewhere in there were a ton of people there, and somewhere in the walk back to the car, realized that we lost one of our son's shoes, fell out from underneath the stroller. So trying to get home as quickly as possible, I took off running back to the church parking lot where the shoe was left somewhere. I luckily found it. Kylie and I got into a little bit of a tiff about how long I actually ran, because it felt like 4 miles, but she says it was no more than a half a mile. And I'm hurting. So there's a lot of things that I can't do anymore. Just for you to know. I just wanted you to know that. Back to the topic at hand. What's that?
Thanks for sharing.
I just felt like that needed to be said.
Appreciate it.
Back to the topic at hand. Yeah, I totally agree on Kevin's game. There were a couple. We missed an easy touchdown down the middle, and then on the possession that we had it goal to go and got 2 or 3 penalties. Ran a nifty little play action fake, and then had Brashard down the middle, and that one kind of sailed high on him too. But other than that, I thought his performance was really good. You're looking at 25 of 33. 323 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's a solid day at the office, right? The other thing that I thought was good was we talk about this again. Moochie Dixon had a good game. Roderick had a good game. Our little Swiss Army knife. Jordan Hudson, I think you and I talked about this after we got off the air. he is appearing more and more. And where I find him appearing is when a play gets extended. He can make the catch on time. He can make the go ball catch for a touchdown. But he finds a way to get open when the play gets extended, and Kevin seems to look for him, and he has a knack for finding open space when Kevin gets out of the pocket. And then our boy Matt Hibner caught another little play action pass down the middle for a tutty. So a nice day by the receiving core all around. In terms of things that I think need to get cleaned up, and this is kind of 2 weeks in a row. Last week, the stats told me a little different story than what I felt like I was seeing against Boston College. What I saw yesterday was a running game that got to pull my laptop in real fast. Excuse me. What I saw yesterday was a run game that only averaged 3.5 a carry. I think was maybe even less than that. But that's something that can be improved. We're playing a team that frankly is not great on defense. Now they're big up front, but they hadn't been great all year on defense. And I thought that was our worst rushing performance of the season. Now it corresponded with one of our better, more efficient passing games of the season. And I'll have to look it up how many times Kevin's been over 300 yards. Frankly, he just hasn't had to go over 300 yards throwing. But Virginia did load the box and they tried to stop the run. And so what was there was those passing opportunities. And I thought that was great. But, we have shown our ability to impose our will and run the ball at will on most teams that we played. So I think something to clean up and to look forward to in the Cal game.
Yeah, it was certainly, evident that Virginia was trying, to take away Burchard every which way that they could. And by doing that, stacking the box and trying to not necessarily make Kevin beat him, but, take away what we would consider a strength in our running game is, we're not going to let Burchard go for, 20 carries, 150 yards, and a couple touchdowns. We're going to make you throw the ball and make you earn it. Not that we can't do that, and we haven't shown that we can do that. I think Kevin's shown that all year long, that he can make the right play and deliver the football and distribute the football efficiently, and he did just that.
Yes.
I think it was certainly an intentional effort by Virginia to limit the run game. Still got over 100 yards. Burchard had 19 for 63 and a touchdown. LJ had 11 carries for 43. So in tandem, over 100 yards, but certainly not the run performance that we're used to seeing.
Just not quite as efficient, to use the word of the night, right? It's that we have been a very efficient running the ball, and yesterday morning rather was just the yards were tough to come by. And that's okay sometimes, by the way. That's the way football, that's the way the games work sometimes. But, oftentimes in the NFL, you used to talk about running for 100 yards and how often that meant you won the game. Well, those yards didn't always come in the first half. They came in the third and fourth quarter when you've worn down the defensive front, and then you're able to start those 2 and 3 yard gains early turn into 4, 5, 6, and then an explosive. And so that's kind of what I guess what I'm maybe did a poor job getting at is, I would expect us to be able to run the ball a little better down the stretch of the game. And again, we took the foot off the gas, certainly. And Burchard was kind of battling a little bit of an ankle. I think he got it retaped early in the game. But I think as something that, maybe a coaching point this week is finish the game running the ball, and don't let them continue to tackle us for those 2-3 yard gains.
Yeah, no, it's well said. Certainly got to improve upon that, especially as we clinch a spot in the ACC Championship. It's only going to be tough sledding going forward against Cal, but also into that ACC matchup, whether we play Miami or Clemson. With the win next week, Miami would clinch their spot. If they were to lose, we'd face Clemson. So certainly need to reestablish the run game and get some things figured out pretty quickly. Yeah,
agreed. I would like to know who the Kyle Padron shot of the game is real fast, because I'm excited now about talking about some of these playoff scenarios and what that looks like for the conference titles, and some stuff we can get into that does certainly affect SMU, but not directly.
Yeah, I honestly had a tough time this week. I think there were a few candidates. One that was honestly stolen from Mucci that would have been the Padron shot of the game. I think the booth.
That was a catch, by the way. That was a catch. I don't know how that call. I guess I understand how the call stood because you didn't know for sure what happened to the ball for a split second, but that was a catch, and it should have been called a catch from the beginning, and then it would have stood the other direction.
Correct. So Mucci, hell of a catch, man. I'm sorry that I cannot give you the Padron shot of the game this week, but I thought we had a few plays. Our big gains actually turned in off of relatively short throws. I think Mucci early in the game had a 51-yard reception, 52-yard reception, but he caught it at the line of scrimmage and just
on the screen pass.
Yeah, all the work he did after catching the football turned to a big play. Roderick had a couple, but the one that I'm going to go with this week is in the second quarter. It's our second touchdown of the game. We're 1st and 10 inside the red zone at the 17-yard line, little RPO. Your boy you mentioned earlier, Jordan Hudson, runs a great, I call it a post. He stuck him at about 10 yards and stuck him to kind of a deep slant, maybe short post, but a great RPO. Kevin reads it well. Sees the safety fly down and throws it right behind him, delivers a heck of a football.
Jordan catches it.
And Jordan actually catches the ball but has somebody to run over and falls forward into the end zone to get the touchdown there. So, not your typical deep shot that we've highlighted in previous weeks, but still a fantastic play to really put us in the driver's seat and take momentum. We were up 7-0 at the time, and a good drive there. Again, didn't have the fast start we've seen in previous weeks, but we took a 14-0 lead with 5 minutes left in the second quarter there. But just a great read, and then a great effort by Jordan after the catch to get in the end zone. A little touchdown celebration by Jordan too at the end, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't know what that dance was. I showing my age here, but I can't keep up with. I don't know what that move was. I have no clue. Never seen that one before.
Don't care or no. Enjoyed the dance.
I did know this one by KJ when he scored. That one I've seen before. I don't know what it's from, but I've seen it before at least. All right, MVP time. I'm gonna do what I did a few weeks ago. I think there are a couple worthy candidates. Again, I think Kevin certainly played a MVP deserving game, though I'm gonna go ahead and dock him because of the 2 turnovers, the interception, not his fault, the fumble, hold on to the ball late. We're up by 100 points. I'm going to go with the defense. For all intents and purposes, the defense pitched a shutout. The only touchdown that was scored was when Virginia took over at our, already instant red zone, as our boy, drawing a blank on his last name, Scott, the red zone guy, would say on NFL Sundays, in an instant red zone for Virginia. So Scott Hansen. Yeah. So I'm going to go with the defensive unit as a whole. I thought they played great. Like we talked yesterday about, let's get club takeaway going again. Those will come. I think, we keep putting ourselves in the right position. I think those turnovers will come. Love to see us try and force a couple more fumbles. The interceptions, though, they will come. I mean, we're right there on a few plays. I love the fact that there have been a couple games this year where we don't need the turnovers to play great defense. Being able to get stops, get sacks, put teams behind the chains, and make them work real hard for every yard that they get. And the turnovers, again, they'll come. So I was very encouraged by the defensive performance. I think that hopefully that gets us a little momentum going into these last 2 games. We got to go. This will be my quick segue into kind of talking about what's going on around college football. We got to handle business against Cal. A lot of playoff projections are now based on what happened yesterday, which we'll dive into with the chaos around the SEC. But a lot of playoff predictions now kind of have SMU safely in. And I think that's based on the assumption that we beat Cal, which we should. So I don't know what the line opened at for the Cal game.
Gigi, I'm going to cut you off for a second. If we do not beat Cal, we don't deserve to be in, just to set expectations.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I think so. SMU opens as a 13.5-point favorite. Now, there is a scenario, obviously, where we lose to Cal and then go win the ACC title game, but nobody wants to see that. So we go beat Cal, and then who knows what happens in the ACC title game. I'm certainly not, predicting anything like that. I think we have a great chance to beat either Clemson or Miami. But a lot of these projections have SMU kind of safely into the playoff, regardless of the outcome of that game. So I'm excited to see what happens next week with the Big 12 title race, and Boise State's kind of been playing with fire lately, and the Big 12, especially Big 12 has 9 teams that still have a chance to make it to their title game. And then just kind of for nostalgia's sake, probably for both of us, the Texas A&M game is a winner. Winner goes and the loser goes home. So I can imagine that Kyle Field will be a pretty fun place to be next Saturday night.
That's going to be a hell of an atmosphere. It's definitely one I will be tuning in for. Let's talk about, you mentioned it sounded like you had some desire to talk about college football playoff. Is there anything else that you would like to add? Yeah,
I think, listen, it's like, I don't want to speculate certainly on what could happen, but like if we take care of business both these next 2 weeks, we got a chance to have a bye in the first 12-team playoff ever and be one of those 4 teams that gets a bye and then gets to be, not a home playoff game because we'll be playing at a bowl site, but having a chance to play against a team that is seated below us in a college football quarterfinal, which is very exciting. I don't know who that's going to be. I thought before yesterday, just to get into this chaos that happened around the SEC, Ole Miss looked like world beaters a few weeks ago against Georgia. Alabama has looked like world beaters basically since what was it, the Tennessee game, where they got beat by Tennessee and kind of looked pretty sluggish for a few weeks in a row. And they've looked great since then, dominant really. And last but not least, Texas A&M, who everyone just keeps wanting to bring back into the title conversation. And as the Aggies tend to do, they find a way to disappoint you every time you get your hopes up. So
Gigi said that with a big smirk on his face.
Well, it's true. There's no denying that. But now all those teams have 3 losses, and this was the point of the 12-team playoff. It's like, when you were 5th, I have a vivid memory of, I think it was the first playoff, if not the first, it was the second, of TCU losing 62-59 to Baylor and getting left out of that first playoff because Ohio State dominated Wisconsin in the Big 12 in the Big 10 title game. And it was like TCU really should have got a shot at this. And I think they left the Big 12 out entirely that year. They left Baylor out and they left TCU out. And both of those teams could have got a shot. But when you're the 13th team, when you're the 5th team, you kind of have a gripe. When you're the 13th team, you don't really have a gripe. And that's what happened in the SEC yesterday, was a lot of these teams showed that they really are pretty flawed. They're not that they're not great teams. A lot of them are very good, but I think this just opened the door, because up until yesterday, I sort of thought it was going to be 4 SEC teams, 4 Big 10 teams, an ACC team, Boise State, the Big 12, and then Notre Dame, and that was your playoff. Now, what happens with to kind of jump around a little bit? Does Penn State, did they, continue to get the benefit of the doubt when they've been playing with fire for so long? Boise State the same way. Indiana, their first big game of the year, and they kind of got smacked around by Ohio State. Couldn't do much on offense at all. So there's a lot of question marks that I'm excited to see what happens on Tuesday night.
Yep. Yeah. And I don't know, the shocking upset, OU dominates Alabama. Jalen Milroe looked lost. I watched, most of that game. He looked lost. Obviously, you mentioned the Auburn upset of A&M. Boise sneaks out at Wyoming. Florida upsets Ole Miss and knocks up, any chance they thought they had of, getting an at-large bid.
Yeah.
And then, one that we didn't mention was, BYU. They're falling down the ranks. They are staying out of the playoff race.
Yeah.
Unless they can find a way to win the conference. But even then, it looks challenging. And then, one that I would like to highlight, just thought it was a crazy stat, is Kansas knocks off Colorado. That's their third consecutive ranked victory. I think they're now at 5-6 with a chance to win next week to get to bowl eligibility. But they've knocked off 3 ranked opponents in consecutive weeks. It's pretty impressive.
Very impressive. And this is a Kansas team that was a lot better than their record showed. They were, I think they had lost 6 games by a combined 30 points. I mean, that's, you can do the math there. That's losing by an average of 5 points per game. And that is, playing a lot of really tight ball games. And I'm looking just real fast. I think they play, no, they don't play Kansas State, so they don't get the chance to play spoiler again against a ranked team. But yeah, for them to find a way to get to a bowl game would be really cool. I think that's a fun one to watch this next weekend. And I think on the other side of that, Colorado started to get. They've had a ton of hype about them basically since Dion got there, and then credit to them for playing well for a lot of this season, but they really hadn't played anybody. I think their strength of schedule was right down there with Indiana, and Kansas hit them in the mouth yesterday, and was really impressive.
Finish too. I mean, they controlled that football game the entire 60 minutes. Yeah,
totally agree. I don't know that I'm qualified to talk everyone through the Big 12 scenarios, so this is. Just tune in next week and watch what happens, because there is that conference is absolute chaos. Most of the other conference races have seemingly settled themselves. The Big Ten is pretty straightforward. Ohio State wins, they lose. I think that opens the door for Penn State, which Penn State probably doesn't want. If I'm being honest, Penn State probably doesn't want to have to go to the Big Ten title game. But the Big 12 is just absolute chaos, and I don't have any interest, or I don't think I have the capability to try and describe what the possible scenarios and outcomes there.
Yeah, I don't want to dissect that either. We'll just wait another week and see how it unfolds, and let the paid professionals with ESPN tell us what's going on there. But a few matchups let's talk about around college football next week real quickly. Obviously, a big one I'm interested in. Michigan goes to Ohio State to the Horseshoe. Big question is, can Ryan Day beat Michigan? They are the better team this year.
No doubt. 20.5-point favorites, so 3 touchdown favorites. Best. That's exactly right. The best. There's no doubt about that.
Well, your quote from yesterday, but if Ryan Day does not beat Michigan, what does that do for his future in Columbus? I don't know. That would be I would imagine that he probably would have a hard time getting on the airplane with the Buckeyes if they lose that game. Obviously, we talked about Texas A&M. That one's going to be huge Saturday night in College Station. The renewing of a rivalry that's been dead for 15 years. One other one that, this is a ranked matchup, so it's not like an under the radar matchup, but it's non-conference. South Carolina playing Clemson. Yep.
I'm curious if South Carolina sort of became everyone's little sweetheart team lately, talking about how fast they're going to jump up the polls after they beat Texas A&M and narrowly lost to Alabama. If Clemson wins that game, which Clemson's a 2.5-point favorite, Vegas is typically pretty good with this stuff. What does that do to the SEC's resume in the eyes of the committee as well? Again, I think a lot of that sorted itself out with the SEC. It's likely that maybe one 3-loss team makes it, but which one? If Clemson beats South Carolina, who again kind of raised hell in the SEC the past few weeks or months, what does that say about the SEC as a whole in their conference? So I'm interested to see what the committee thinks of that game, what happens, and then what the committee thinks of it.
Yeah, I think, Clemson is looking at least people are talking about them getting an at-large bid, which you could assume that means there's 3 ACC teams making, that tournament of 12, the college football playoff. If they win I think that's the resume that they're probably an 11 or 12 seed is my guess, unless Miami loses next week and they, earn their spot in the ACC Championship. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence of, I think with all of the chaos in the SEC this past week and the Big 12, frankly, I think it opens the door for, if SMU beats Cal next week, I think we lock ourselves into, regardless of result in the ACC Championship game, I think we're in unless we just get absolutely blown out, which
I think that's an important little side note, right? I think playing again, we want to go win. We're just talking through hypotheticals here, but playing in a competitive ACC title game, regardless of the outcome, ideally we blow Miami or Clemson out and steamroll our way into the playoff. But in talking doomsday scenarios, I think you're right.
Yeah, and I think Miami, with a win next week, the committee has shown that they love Miami all year long, at least for the last several weeks with the rankings. And I think if they win, if they earn their spot in the ACC Championship game, they're a lock. So I think we're potentially looking at 3 teams from the ACC getting into the tournament, and it speaks volumes for our league. And then certainly there would be some question marks about who's that 2 or 3 loss team that sneaks in from the SEC or the Big 12 champion, kind of what decisions come down after evaluating the full body of work throughout the different leagues. And
the Power 3 conferences, as you said.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, Big 12, Little 12, if you will. But yeah, we'll got another, 7 days. We'll be back next week to chat more about it. Obviously with a lot more information and, maybe not necessarily a crystal ball, but certainly have a good indication of where the committee's feeling after this week on Tuesday. And then with the results next week, be able to kind of get closer to best guesses for what that tournament of 12 will look like.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's all we got, man. Again, Ponies open as 13.5-point favorites against Cal. KP, have a great Thanksgiving. Maybe we try and hop on a little preview episode and dive into the Ponies versus the Golden Bears. My dad's alma mater, by the way.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. Both my parents, but my dad played football there. So,
Is there a family bet?
He's probably rooting. He's probably rooting for SMU, if I had to guess.
Good man.
So,
Good man.
Yeah.
He's got his priorities in line.
That's right.
Love it. Well,
all right.
Happy Thanksgiving to you. Happy Thanksgiving to all of our listeners. We'll be back with you later this week. Until then, pony up.
Pony up.